Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to have a look at the main prize of the next battle pass, which is called the Last Legionnaire, and it is the M46 Patton. But it isn't just an American M46 Patton, this is a premium rank 4 version, which is going to be in the French tech tree of all places. Now this one seems very similar to the one that's in the American tree, apart from, of course, it is a premium. You have, of course, the M46 Tiger, which is in the American tree, but this one is just more of a French version. I've got to be honest, I am pretty disappointed by this. There were many options that would have been a lot more fun and more interesting than the M46. It's a vehicle which is fine, there's nothing wrong with it. It will be, combat effective and useful in the game, and a premium at rank 4 is always nice, but uninspired is definitely a word that I would use, and it just makes me kind of disappointed going into 2025. Because usually a new year means new ideas, but with this battle pass, that isn't what's happening. Anyway, what we'll do is we'll have a look at this pattern, talk about its effect on the French tech tree, and also an opportunity for people to get into the French tech tree, which can be incredibly fun. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe. Let's get into the history of this vehicle. In 1945, a program to create a new medium tank for the US Army based on the M26 Pershing was launched. The Detroit Arsenal built 10 prototypes with a new engine, slightly longer chassis, and a modernized M3A1 gun with a new muzzle brake. The prototypes were submitted for testing in 1949, but even before being completed, the vehicle was approved for serial production and standardized as the M46 General Patton medium tank. The M46 tanks took part in the Korean War and were also supplied to European countries in the 1950s, in particular France and also Belgium. So with the M46, one of the biggest issues with it is actually grinding it out. The tech tree one for America is pretty slow until you get the upgrades. Of course, you need the heat FS on the M3A1 gun to be useful, and at the same time, it doesn't really have a ton of armor, so people could just pierce straight through you. Nowadays, it's a lot easier to kind of grind through than it was before, but you still had, the issue of not having the heat FS stock. Now, luckily, with this M46 coming to the French tech tree, you don't have to worry about that. Instead, you get a premium version at rank 4, which means that you can grind the majority of the tech tree with it, which is quite nice, and it means it'll give you a good kickstart to the French tech tree, and you can use the good old heat FS straight away. You don't have to worry about having to grind it out. So that's one of the biggest bonuses of this vehicle, the premium bonuses of it. Now, the thing is about this gun, right? So it's 90mm and it's the M3A1. It has a variety of interesting characteristics, and one of them is that it can fire the M82 shot and also the M348 shell. So the M82 shot, if you actually end up, penning something with it, it will just nuke a vehicle very easily, but the problem is the penetration. That's where the heat FS comes in, where you get increased penetration up to 305mm, and that means that you can do more damage to the vehicle that you're hitting. And since around this BR, you'll face a lot of 6.7. Because right now, there aren't actually that many nations that have 7.3s and 7.7s, so you'll face a lot of 6.7 if you're at 7.0, which this vehicle will be at, since, America has access to 2 of these things, and both of them are at 7.0 right now. But basically, there's a lot of heavies at 6.7, and a ton of people will struggle to penetrate these heavies, but the M46 won't with its heat FS shell. So even though you won't do a lot of post-penetration damage, and you're going to have to really pick where you shoot with the gun, because it will just kind of fire a straight jet into the vehicle with a small cone, compared to stuff like APHE and things like that, you will at least be able to do damage against a lot of these heavies. When they added the M26 Pershing to the to the French tech tree, which they did quite a while ago, it made me realize how poor the M26 is compared to its compatriots, the AMX M4 and also even the AMX 13 that is at this BR. The the M46 is a huge upgrade over the M26, not just in mobility, but also in rounds that it can take, and that makes a huge difference to the vehicle and will be a lot better fit for the French tech tree than the M26. Now, there is a problem here with this M46, and it's that it won't have a lineup. You have the AUF, the good old SPH based on the AMX30 chassis with the 155mm, and then that's it. Everything else is either at 6.7 or 6.3, which kind of sucks. It's something which, a lot of nations kind of struggle with around this BR, where you have, as I said, this huge gap between kind of 6.7 and 8.0, and it just kind of sucks. There are some nations which have a few vehicles around here, but not full lineups. Italy has a 7.0, it has a 7.7, and it has a 7.3, but it doesn't have a full lineup. If you have a look at somebody like China, China goes straight from 6.3 all the way to 7.7, showing that they just don't have anything in that area. And then even something like Japan, once again, you have some 6.7s, but it goes straight to 7.3, 7.7s. And once again, only a lineup at 7.3 and no lineup at 8.0. So this whole BR is a little bit wonky. There's a lot of very odd parts to it with different nations. So generally what happens at this BR is you play a lot at 6.7, and a vehicle like the M46 is going to do well at 6.7. Because of its round and because of its general mobility. And that is the big upgrade over the M26. So if you haven't played the M46 in the American tech tree, that, will give you kind of like a booster towards it. The M26 itself has access to a 500 horsepower engine, whereas the M46 has an 810 horsepower engine, which is also running at higher RPM. So that kind of gives you an idea of how much more mobile this thing is compared to its predecessor. A huge advantage compared to it. Now, survivability wise, it doesn't have a ton of armor. You basically have 100mm on the upper glacis, and also on the front you have only about maybe 130, 140mm. You have the really annoying ammo rack, which a lot of American vehicles have, where you have the ammo rack on the right side of the turret, and then you have the 2 crew members on the left. But at least in this thing, you still have the 5 crew members, so if your turret gets popped and somehow the ammo doesn't explode, you can actually survive, which is quite nice. Another thing that the American M46 actually gets is it gets the chicken wire. It becomes the chicken wire express, and it would be interesting to see the French one get this, but something tells me it's not going to, because of the fact that that isn't an upgrade which is shared on the premium version of the M46 that we have in the American tech tree. Now, they do show quite a nice camouflage for the M46 for France, the Legionnaire camo, which is quite good, and I'm guessing this is based on something like the French Legion or something like that. Maybe that's what this Battle Pass is about, but I've got to be honest, this Battle Pass just feels pretty uninspired. At least the last one, you had the Moments, which was basically a copy-paste Detroit. You had the Grief, which was copy-paste, but once again, it had access to a pretty interesting missile. This Battle Pass is just 2 copy-paste American vehicles, and that's it. Yeah, they're pretty useful premiums. The SP2C is fantastic. It's a really, really good premium to have. The M46 is a lot less because you already have such powerful lineups for France at different BRs. But, it'll be a useful premium. There's nothing wrong with this vehicle. It's just dull and it's just boring. And that's the problem. I don't want to see this happen to the Battle Pass, where every single kind of vehicle that comes into it is just ones we've already seen before, but for different nations, which clogs up the matchmaker with a bunch of vehicles that are just going to face each other, which are the same, which gets confusing, and then also at the same time means that people just become more and more uninterested in it. This Battle Pass features 2 nations which heavily need, people to have a look at them. France and obviously Japan with its aviation side of things, especially with all the Thai stuff being added. hopefully people give it a second look. But with Franz, the ground is so fun. You have a really strong rank 4. You have an insanely strong rank 5. You have a pretty fun rank 6 with a bunch of cool vehicles. Rank 2 is pretty good as well. And rank 3 has a lot of American vehicles, which shore it up and make it really awesome. And with the addition of the Benelux stuff in the tech tree, I thought, oh, well, we're going to get a cool expansion of the Benelux stuff. But now we've only had the 2A4, the 5, and the 6, and that's it. This M46 could have easily been a standard tech tree vehicle with the Belgian, insignias on it. Maybe that would make it a bit more interesting for people, and then we could have had something a bit more unique, such as the other AMX M4 or AMX 50 that they haven't added yet, which has been sat in the files for the longest time. Or maybe it was removed. I would have to look once again. But yeah, this just kind of sucks. I don't know what else to say. I wish it was a different vehicle. I wish we had a better main prize, which at least got me more interested in what was going on. This vehicle is serviceable, just very dull. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.